You're listening to This Week in America with Rick Bratton.
Welcome back, everybody, coast to coast. This Week in America, online, thisweekinamerica.us. She's known as the Ambassador of Happiness. Maura Sweeney's Living Happy Inside Out mantra resonates with audiences worldwide. She's an accomplished public speaker, seasoned workshop leader, sought-after media guest, podcaster, Huffington Post contributor, author of the highly acclaimed The Art of Happiness book series, known for speaking on topics like influence, leadership, emotional intelligence, and authenticity. A former decorated corporate manager, homeschooling mom, volunteer, and public advocate. After graduating from Boston College with a degree in political science, she worked for the late U.S. Senator Ted Kennedy. Maura has traveled to over 60 countries, learning, sharing, and speaking on the inner light that sparks each one of us to arise into our best and most authentic version of self, a helper and advocate for others everywhere. The Ambassador of Happiness, Maura Sweeney, joining us on This Week in America. Maura, welcome to the program.
Hey, thank you so much, Rick, and I am thrilled to be with you today. I'm smiling as you gave me that lengthy intro, and all I thought is, people who've never heard of me before must think either she's really amazing or she's very, very old. And I think the latter is more the case. I've just had many years of experience that helps me put all of that together in terms of what I do today.
You are amazing in what you've been able to do and touch people. And I want to mention at the beginning that I was called to Maura's attention. We actually introduced by a frequent guest on our program, a friend of both of ours, Yvonne Heath, the author, of course, of Love Your Life to Death. She's talked about that many times in the program. And behind the Just Show Up campaign, which is really important. And I thank Yvonne for introducing us. And I'm looking forward to our conversation today. I mentioned Ambassador of Happiness. I want to talk about, can Americans be happy? If we ever needed an ambassador of happiness, now is the time. I'm not sure they'd vote on you in the Senate because they don't seem to vote on anything in the Senate. But we really could use some happiness right now, couldn't we?
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you say that. You know, the things I talk about today, I knew the world was not ready for, nor was I until this juncture, or let's say as I got into my midlife years. We really do need to rethink the way we are in society. And I'm so glad that I'm able to do all that I am today. The answer to your question is yes. We really can be a happier society by choosing to be happy and to live in a state of personal choice, personal empowerment, and also personal perspectives where we choose the good rather than the bad, where we choose the upward thoughts rather than the negative, and where we choose unifying concepts rather than dividing ones.
You know, it's interesting. I mentioned the book series, The Art of Happiness. Is happiness an art? It sounds like it's something you think that we can create. For so many people, happiness, we sort of, whatever comes our way, we'll deal with. And after reading some of the books and listening to you, it's like, no, we actually can create happiness for ourselves. You did.
Yes. In fact, one of the reasons why I called it The Art of Happiness, not to be confused with the Dalai Lama, who has a book by the same name, is because I use frames that I created out of my own artwork. And think about your life and your world as a framework. How do you think? How do you frame questions? How do you frame yourself in terms of who you are, what you are, and how you interact with the world? And happiness truly is a choice. It's a state of mind. And oddly enough, Rick, I think we're taught a lot of things in school. We're taught how to read, how to write, how to do math. We learn about science. We even learn things like how to do physical exercise or eat the right foods. What we do not learn, however, is something so fundamental and important to just well-being in this human race, and that is, how do we become aware of our thoughts? Because our thoughts set up our emotions, and when we think on something repeatedly, we literally create that as an experience in our mind or in our lives. The more we think about something, the more we end up experiencing it. So why not every day, in each time or each moment that we're challenged, to choose a better way of thinking, one that's more constructive, uplifting, instructional, and helpful.
Maura Sweeney, our guest on This Week in America. The website, her website is Maura4U.com. That's Maura, M-U-R-I-A, the number 4, the letter U.com. Go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and link on directly to that website. And this is not a case, you talk to some people that were born with a smile on their face and they've been happy their entire lives. That really wasn't the case with you. In fact, you said, if life had not shown me what happiness was not, I might not have embarked on a journey to discover what happiness truly is. You had great success in law school. A career was sort of destined for you, predestined for you by family members, but you really weren't happy. Talk about that experience, because you find out what happiness is by understanding what it isn't.
Yes, these days there's so much self-help out there. I think when I was growing up, I had to learn things on my own. And what I discovered is that what sounds good to other people, paths in life that appear wonderful or praiseworthy or maybe even impressive, may not always speak to our identity and our soul. And I was midway through law school trying to become this New York, New Jersey attorney to follow my late grandfather's footsteps. And all throughout my early years, I just was always I don't want to say the fish out of water. The better way to describe it would be a person wearing the wrong clothes, operating in the wrong place.
Right.
And those places did not give me that internal sense of light and energy and enthusiasm. And literally at 23 years old, I one day couldn't get out of my chair to drive myself to law school. And then I thought, okay, I've hit the wall. I need to get off and I need to find what makes my heart sing, what gives me that light that helps me jump out of bed every morning and say, this is what I'm here on planet Earth for. Sounds a little bit idealistic, and it doesn't mean it's an easy path, Rick, but it's been that process in my life that has helped me to become a far bigger, happier, and more authentic version of myself. And I use it to inspire and empower others to do the same.
Well, you talked about rekindling that childhood spark, the reason to jump out of bed in the morning and to take on the world. And you think about that. As children, we can do anything we want when we're kids, and we sort of lose that along the way. Is that a key to what you're telling people? Let's go back and find that spark. Just because it was a childhood spark doesn't mean when you're 16 you'll lose it.
Guess what? I think those childhood sparks are brilliant sparks. When I was small, I could remember growing up in northern New Jersey, looking at airplanes in the sky. All I wanted to do was get on board the airplanes and circle the earth and meet all of my supposed friends in other countries and cultures around the world. I even dug a hole in our backyard hoping I'd reach my friends in China. Remember that old idea, if you dig a hole deep enough? That was what I used to think about. I was consumed with JFK's presidency and the sense of national exuberance and what can we do for our country as a whole? How do we contribute? I was taken up with my grandfather's legal secretary's typewriter rather than his practice because I saw the power in the written word that other people could read and think about and draw from and change their lives. And all of those things, if I look back on them, had a role in what I do today. And it's, I think, for anyone who gets so far off their own personal path, they can actually look back and think, what was I doing as a child before people told me I couldn't do it?
Yes.
And really, so much of what I'm doing today is the culmination of following after those desires, those interests, and those passions.
You know, it's interesting when you get to that point where I'm not real happy doing what I'm doing now. And you face that in law school and you decide you were going to take a leave of absence. And they said, okay, she's never coming back. And you never did. You left Seton Hall and went on to the rest of your life. But you didn't know what the rest of your life was. I'm sure there was fear, trepidation. You were concerned about disappointing people. And so often, if someone has high expectations for you in a certain area of life, I really don't want to pull that out from under them. I'm afraid of how they're going to react. We sometimes get too caught up in what the reaction of other people is going to be rather than how we're going to benefit.
Absolutely. And I was certainly one of those people, first child, pleaser. But it's because of that, Rick, that much of what I do and speak of and relate to others is so relatable because I feel for other people on many different levels and I can relate to them. And it's from that position that I can oftentimes give a spark of hope or open up an avenue of thought, or kind of open up a door where they could even take baby steps and say, well, this lady did it. I could take a few steps of my own. And by the way, if I could just interrupt here, I know you gave my website. It's Maura, M as in Mary, AURA, followed by the number 4 and letter U.com. Hope you don't mind.
No, in fact,
But
I was going to do that again. I thought that's what I did, and if I didn't, obviously I didn't, and I apologize for that.
Don't worry, you're not alone.
For4u.com, and you can link on directly by going to our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Time is going by so quickly, and we're talking about basically the broad theme of Americans being happy. I mentioned you've traveled extensively to over 60 countries, and really all of those visits had a great impact on shaping who you are. You're doing a global happiness survey. Talk about the impact of that, and what are some of the things, maybe common things that we have in people with other countries that we're looking for in life that bring us happiness?
Rick, what a great way to maybe close up this interview, because it's so unifying. I tend to be a storyteller. But one day my husband said, Maura, instead of offering your ideas about happiness from experience, why not start cultivating information from others? So over the past several years, I have gotten hundreds of people to respond to a global happiness survey that I've been doing. I've had people as young as 16 and as old as in their 90s. They're from 29 states here in the U.S. and 27 countries around the world and counting. So they're single, married, divorced. They've got everything from high school diplomas all the way up to PhDs, medical doctorate degrees, etc. And I'll say to them, so how would you define happiness in 50 words or less? And constantly, and I mean as a routine basis, this is what happiness is defined by as people here in America and around the world. You ready? The first thing is this: healthy relationships. People want less drama, and that feeling of having healthy relationships makes them feel better. Number 2 is peace of mind. Number 3 is freedom. Number 4 is purpose and fulfillment. And number 5, personal confidence. Now, think about those 5 things. This is people around the world, every age, every background. That's how unifying an idea and a concept and a value happiness is. So if we can start focusing in on those areas of our own lives, not only will we be happier, but then we will help radiate that sense of a betterment of life and betterment of self to other people around us, thereby doing what I'm hoping to do, which is really create a better society for us all. And hopefully a saner one.
Well, yes. In fact, I want to mention that in the couple minutes we have left in the program, we have this division now in the country, and it seems like it's getting worse rather than better. Do other countries go through this as well?
They do. And this is where people get tunnel vision. They think, oh, look at America. We've got so many things going on. We have all these groups that are opposed to each other. I just came back from 2 months ago, from spending nearly a month in 5 Southeastern European countries. And I remember where I spoke 15 times, and I would think I was on national TV 3 times while there. But in one nation, I was sitting to dinner after meeting with young national leaders, and there was a young man on the table who said, I really admire the United States. He said, here in this part of the world, we look back on cultural differences that go back to thousands of years before Christ, and we're still reliving these old divisions. He said, but in the United States, he said, everybody's so progressive, they're always moving forward. And I chuckled to myself because everyone thinks they're the only ones that have problems with division and isms, rather than thinking about how we're all at some level part of the human race and how we could actually look at one another in ways that lift each other up, that support each other, and that really create a better environment for us all. So, hate to tell you, it's a universal issue.
So it's not just ours. Maybe we need to solve it on a global basis rather than just here in the U.S. Maura Sweeney, our guest on the program. The website is Maura, 4 letter U, Maura4U.com. You can link on to thisweekinamerica.us and go directly there. A few minutes left in the program. I mentioned the mantra before, living happy inside out. Talk about the significance of that and how we can do that. And you went through that because people were looking at you on the outside and thinking Maura's very happy, and you said you were pretty much like a zombie on the inside.
All they have to do is look at some old pictures of me. I was like there, but the lights were not on, or nobody was home. But This idea, it's so simple. It's 4 words: living happy inside out. Most people try to run after happiness. They run after success. They follow after all of these cues that society, the media, maybe other so-called experts tell them they need to do or to be or to purchase or to agree with in order to feel happy. I learned as a young child, oftentimes feeling very limited or restricted, that I didn't like feeling unhappy. So I chose instead to find ways to have a mindset that put me in a positive vein. And as a result, I kept living from my inside space rather than the outside, saying, okay, I'm here. What could I do to make the best of it? How can I use this opportunity to improve myself rather than complain about where I am? How can I plan for my future? What baby steps can I take? So it was always an inside job, hence living happy from the inside out. My sense, Rick, if we can acquire that as a skill and as a way of being each and every day, we will literally feel so much better as individuals, and we will help take that same atmosphere of joy. And I want to say there's more to it. There's freedom, there's this ongoing sense of creativity and helpfulness, and it will just ripple effect to so many other people around the world.
It's interesting because so often people will look at that and go, geez, how do you make that step? You made that step. You left a career you were not excited about, but you were doing well in law school. You had this great legal career ahead of you. You walked away with nothing, but you had a smile on your face. How difficult is it to do that, to actually walk away and rediscover yourself? And I'll close by asking you this. There's so many people that go, geez, I'm 42 years old. If I haven't discovered myself by now, I'm not going to. This is too late for me. I am who I am, and you're shaking your head no. And I love that. It's like, but it's never too late to change.
Absolutely not. And if we could finish even with this little bit of advice. Do you realize what I'm doing today? I've taken an entire lifetime of a toolbox of not only education and work experience, but life experience, relationships, learning experiences. And I have used it together to create what I'm doing. No matter the age, no matter the circumstances, no matter what's going on, to have that kind of a mindset and to follow what you love, what you enjoy, what you're passionate about or curious to learn will always help bring you to another place and another chapter in life that will make you happy and hopefully bring you more life as well. And so what I'm doing today, just so your listeners or those watching know, I started doing this at age 50 plus.
You know, that's why you were so credible, because you did it and you continue to do it. I have a feeling you're still self-discovering and learning things as you go, and feelings and how you can direct yourself in possibly for different objectives.
Yes, I agree with you. And I'm looking at my reflection here. All I do every time you talk is I'm nodding up and down. I hope I don't bother your viewers, but I'm in total agreement. Yes, each and every day with everything I'm doing. Case in point, interviewing with you today. It's these exchanges that help me rethink, re-examine, and continue to grow and expand. And I think it's very healthy. And it's a way of, no matter what age we're at, Rick, to always feel more empowered and full of life. And I could tell you today that if I were to look back at that day, when I was 23 years old when I left law school, and I look at myself today, I have so much more energy, enthusiasm, and vibrancy at many decades down the line. And there is definitely something to be said for following after your inner light and your inner happiness and making it part of a life choice.
Well, it's contagious, and that's why I love having guests like you on the program, and we'll have Maura back on more programs. You'll learn something, and after this is over, there's so much that I've been able to take out of our conversation and doing research for the program. Can you imagine what therapy would have cost me if I would have got these lessons going into a clinic somewhere and actually paying to get this? And it's all there. It's all proven. It's all her life. Maura Sweeney has been our guest on the program, the ambassador of happiness, and the website is maura4u.com. The book series we talked about, The Art of Happiness, much more available at the website, maura4u.com. Again, my thanks to Yvonne Heath for introducing the two of us, Love Your Life to Death, her book, and Just Show Up, the campaign that's so important for people. And Maura, it's been a pleasure. I look forward to having you back on the program. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, and a special thanks to Yvonne for having introduced us to one another. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you. We look forward to having you back on the program. And once again, Maura Sweeney, our guest in the program, website maura4u.com. Click on directly by going to our website, thisweekinamerica.us. And we're back right after these messages.